Okay, it's 12:01, so let's get started. Thanks everyone for attending our Lunch and Learn today. I'm Lisa Lawver, and I'm with the CASFM Outreach and Training Committee. And today we have the opportunity to follow up with one of our CASFM Research Grant awardees and find out how the project is going. And I'm really excited about this because as a ONT committee member, I've been working with awarding grant money for some years now, and having the opportunity to follow up and find out what happens is something that we don't do often enough. So this is a great opportunity for us. So as we go through the presentation today, please put your questions in the chat because everyone is on mute, and we will take them as we can during the presentation. And at the end, if there's time, we'll address outstanding questions. So today's webinar is about the Stratton Meadows Rain Garden and Food Forest. And that's a project of the Fountain Creek Watershed District that received funding from our 2023 CASFM Research Grants. And let me introduce our presenters. Ali Shook is the Executive Director of the Fountain Creek Watershed District, where she's been a pivotal force for the past decade. Under her leadership, Ali has launched impactful outreach programs such as Creek Week and the Fountain Creek Brewshed Alliance, fostering community engagement and environmental stewardship, and is moving the district forward into a new era. Ali holds a degree in natural resource management from the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, and has been a resident of Colorado Springs for 25 years. Kelly Bull is a permaculture landscape designer, garden coach, and community builder on a mission to help connect people to the planet and to each other. She has an infectious love for plants, an endless fascination for soil, and an inspiring vision for socially and ecologically resilient neighborhoods. As the owner of Kelly Bull Permaculture Design, she creates custom designs for backyard ecosystems that allow people to connect with nature through a thriving, low maintenance, yet highly productive landscape. As interim director for Kono, a nonprofit that envisions a world where everyone loves their neighborhood, she helps neighbors create vibrant communities. Having been a teacher for almost a decade, she is passionate about education and enjoys helping other DIYers who love to learn and like to get their hands dirty. Now I'll turn it over to Ali and Kelly.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Lisa. Thank you, Drew, and all of you for joining us today. We're excited to share the project that we did. And I think, can everybody see the screen here? It's up right. I'm going to turn my camera off just so I'm not distracted with that. But we'll just jump right into the presentation here. Okay, so let's see. A little bit about me. I'm from Minnesota, so you might hear my accent every once in a while. So I've been in love with water since I was a child, and I'm really fortunate to be able to do the work that I do in the Fountain Creek Watershed. I'm an avid outdoors woman. I catch fish, I go scuba diving, I raise hundreds of head of garlic in my garden every year, and just once again, fortunate to be doing this great work. As you know, we've got a lot of inputs to our waterways, and we're connected to our ocean by virtue of the waterways that we serve and protect. And just a little history and a kind of snapshot on what we've lovingly referred to as the chicken tender. This is the Fountain Creek watershed. So it's 927 square miles of land and water. We are now the most populous watershed in the state and continuing to grow. We serve 3 counties, 8 municipalities. We have a huge elevation change from the top of Pikes Peak to the plains of Pueblo over a very short distance. We have extremes in slopes and soil types and precipitation where it'll hail at my house and do nothing at Kelly's house a couple miles away. And a lot of water users and interests. And by virtue of all this, Fountain Creek is actually the second most studied watershed in the United States. I guess the first one is some canal in Florida, but we don't really care about that. So a lot of interest in what's happening in our home watershed. This describes the erratic nature of what I call as my problem child. This is Fountain Creek over the years. Just really whips around and moves. It's seen a lot more development. That development is continuing. I get phone calls from landowners just about every time that it rains saying, I lost property. Can you help? And so it's very challenging to try to figure out how to properly manage this watershed in an ecologically minded manner. So here's what Colorado Springs looks like today. And the reason we're able to look like this is by virtue of our water supply system. Fountain Creek actually used to be an intermittent stream years ago, but we have imported so much water from the West Slope and now from Pueblo Reservoir that we have a permanently flowing waterway. These are the kinds of things that keep me up at night. I would imagine several of you also deal with a lot of these challenges. I like to pull up that Colorado Drought Monitor and just kind of see what's going on. Things can change very quickly in a matter of weeks when it comes to watersheds. This is our predictably unpredictable waterway. These are a few recent pictures. The picture on the left, this was one of my landowner calls. They lost 9 feet of their property in a storm this spring. And we really, we saw a lot more water coming through last year, but this still shows that these kinds of things can happen. We've also got in the middle, you can see some of the property here is right along that creek's edge, and the next storm could just blow this sucker out. And then we have some property owners being creative in how they're trying to manage their waterfront property. And this is not proper watershed management, as you know. So we deal with those types of things as well. We're all familiar with stormwater and the impacts when we develop the land. We see the increased runoff, and then that becomes evident quite quickly on the land. This is a little baby Monument Creek tributary in the northern part of Colorado Springs, a healthy little channel here. There was some development that happened behind the trees, and just a few years later, this is completely blown out and $1.5 million to fix just this tiny little stream. We were set up because of all these challenges. We had a visit from, at the time, Senator Salazar, who said this area is a crown jewel. It needs attention. And this brought up 2 years of monthly meetings to say, yes, a district is needed and it needs dedicated funding. This is our 15th year in existence. And so these are the jobs that we have. Just a few things on our to-do list, which is to mitigate flooding, erosion, and sedimentation, address water quality, improve drainage, protect open space, and develop public recreational opportunities. Lots of things to do in our giant watershed. Oops, that's out of order. So we went through a rebranding, and we're really here for the thriving life of the watershed and all that it touches to protect and enhance the health of our home watershed. These are some of the creek restoration work that's been done to date. You can see just 3,000 feet of project work. This is in Pueblo County, north of the Highway 47 bridge. 3,000 feet, $6 million. As you know, these projects are extremely expensive to do, and we received money from Colorado Springs Utilities to the tune of $50 million. That's how we're able to do this creek restoration work. On that Highway 47, though, we had a huge blowout last year with those big storms. You can see some of the rock barriers were blown apart, and what you're seeing on the right are some stumps. Those were 4 feet, 4-foot tall cottonwood trees that got completely buried in sediment, and we do not have a maintenance plan. We have a plan for those dollars that is limited, but really no way to maintain them long term, which is another challenge we're working on. Here's one of our prized projects. This is also in Pueblo County. We installed these bendway weirs, which are functioning fantastically. Whenever we do a creek restoration project, we also include the native plantings to try to restore that riparian habitat for our wildlife. We did mention a couple of our outreach and education programs. Some of you may be familiar with the Creek Week Cleanup. I started that. This is our 11th year. So we have engaged over 20,000 people, removing 150 tons now, It's the weight of the Statue of Liberty, and I just shudder to think what would happen if we didn't have Creek Week. We also have a springtime cleanup called the Great American Cleanup, the Brew Shed Alliance, where we align with over 20 breweries in our watershed. And tonight we do have one of our liquid lecture programs. We rotate breweries on a monthly basis, give you a buck off beer to enjoy a little bit of what I call edutainment. So we're kind of secretly educating you as you're being entertained during these programs. We participate in community water festivals. We have a Scoop the Poop initiative to help manage our E. coli here. We've done fishing derbies. We're getting a lot more into the rain gardens and native plantings, and a couple other efforts there. So we really try to engage in our community because these problems that we're all facing are so big and daunting and complicated. So let's meet people where they're at and start to slowly dip their toes, if you will, into what watershed management is all about. So we know that our limited dollars, 50 million, is running out. We're trying to maximize those funds with grants and project funding partners. We have over $1 billion of work identified in the Fountain Creek watershed, and this is before the next flood, before the next fire. We know that those things are coming. It's just a matter of when. And so we do not have sustainable funding the way that other communities do with the Mile High Flood District. Big Thompson, Boulder, Fort Collins has that funding. And so we're trying to work on a plan for that sustainable funding, perhaps in the form of a mill levy in years to come. We just don't have the political will just yet. So that's another kind of behind the scenes we're working towards. And that's why we developed our strategic plan to help guide that effort. So let's talk about rain gardens. Rain gardens work. When I was working in stormwater in my hometown of Rochester, Minnesota, we started doing rain gardens and offering cost share grants to citizens as a way to get them really involved on their private properties for ways that they can be part of the solution. And the city of Burnsville has done a lot of work in this area. This is a study that they did. They took a whole neighborhood. Each resident got a curb cut and had a rain garden built, and you can see the 90% reduction in runoff volume in those properties. So these things are working not only to reduce the volume of runoff, but to also uptake pollutants, the nitrogen, the phosphorus, even E. coli can be helped out with these rain gardens. Of course, they're beautifying, they're supporting our pollinators, so they're really beneficial. And when I met Kelly, we both just had this passion and wanted to work together. And so we put together our dream team here, the Watershed District, Kelly Bull, and with the funding from CASFM, we were able to put together the grant. And so this was our simple budget that we came up with. We wanted to make sure that education was a component of this work, also building a rain garden and talking about curb cuts, which I'll leave for Kelly to address that one. So we were really excited to receive these funds, get a coalition together and make it happen. And Kelly, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. I'm going to request the remote control so that I can, yeah, I should be able to. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to turn the slides myself.
Okay.
But if you go back, I can say next slide, please.
Okay.
Or if somebody says I'm controlling.
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. So hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Bull. My business is Kelly Bull Permaculture Design. And if permaculture is a new word for you, that is not uncommon. It is a type of landscaping that is very systems based. It's really tapping into natural systems, which naturally makes things more low maintenance and more natural. So things that I focus on in my gardens, I try to make everything as edible as possible, definitely as water-wise as possible. I want lots of support for wildlife, and I really want it to be beautiful. There we go. So this all started when I moved to Colorado Springs almost 4 years ago, and this is the little house my husband and I bought sight unseen, and we really lucked out because it was the perfect spot for us, and I loved it because the yard looked like this. And I really wanted some nice before and after photos for my house, and this is gonna give it to me. So I set out to design this knowing that water was the most limiting factor that I was working with. So this is what the backyard looked like. So my goals when I started designing my yard are all in these circles. So I really wanted to make sure I was producing food that's energy efficient, that it was shading this like parched, hot yard that gets so hot in the summer. The soil was just complete dirt at that point. It really needed to be regenerated and turned to soil. And then I wanted it as water wise as possible, and biodiversity was crucial. My husband and I are both very into birds, as well as me being very into plants ever since I was little. And so really wanted to just maximize all the biodiversity of the yard. So then I got to implementing the design. And so my first step was really to plant the rain. And so what I did was I identified where I needed to walk and then built beds in between all the pathways. So these are actually sunken beds. I dug them about 6 inches deep and then put the soil in the pathway so it raised it up a little bit. And so now when it rains, this is all mulched now, this is an older picture, but the water runs into the beds because they're lower. So the water concentrates right in the planting areas, right where I need it. On the sidewalks, same thing, the water bounces off and then goes into the right-of-way bed. And then off to the side here is my downspout. My downspout runs underneath the ground and then comes out here where I have fruit trees. Same on the other side. So my goal is that every drop of water that lands on the property goes to nourishing the soil and hydrating the plants. So it worked, because now this is what the yard looks like, and it is even more lush than in this picture now at the end of the season. And there have been over 50 species of birds in my yard, when the first year we only saw house finches. We have tons of insects and butterflies, and it's really just been this amazing transformation. So I got really inspired by seeing how much happened from working on my yard, that I started getting inspired to help other neighbors as well. And then they started getting interested too. When they first saw me mulching my entire yard, I had a neighbor come over to be like, this yard used to look so beautiful 10 years ago. It had lush green lawn and it was gorgeous. And so she kind of turned her nose up, but now she loves this yard and asks me for gardening questions all the time. So been changing the culture in the neighborhood as well. So initially we had applied for the grant to install more curb cuts. So this was a big project that I worked on in Colorado Springs, trying to get permission to cut this 4-inch hole in my curb. And it was difficult. It took 10 months of working with the city and reaching out to one department so I started with the planning department, and they said, you're gonna have to talk to stormwater management. And they were like, this is a great idea, but this is not our decision. You have to talk to public works. So I talked to public works, and then I got passed back to planning, and then back to storm management. And so I got passed around a lot until I finally found somebody who said, you know what, let's make this a trial project. And so I got a permission letter to cut this 4-inch hole in my curb. It worked. It was amazing too, magical, because it was cut in May 2 years ago. And that was like the floodgates opened for the summer, and we got so much rain that whole summer. And it started the day that I got the curb cut, and that afternoon it rained and we got to see them work. And they have been working so well. You can see here filling up in this basin here, and then there's one further down here. So I have 2 of them. One thing that's really great too is that it also catches sediment. So I do need to come out here after big storms and then dig out the sand that has been that blocks the hole, but then I'm able to use it in the backyard or put it in my compost, and that's keeping it out of the stormwater management system. So I also have not watered this bed since they've been put in, and it's extremely lush this year and looking great. So low maintenance. I don't have to do anything for it. And it's also cleaning out all the chemicals from the road. And these are very hardy, unedible plants, and they can take it and they're loving it. So unfortunately, what happened was I posted this video of them working and how cool they were, and everyone in the world thinks they're so cool that the video went viral and spread to thousands of people. So over 14,000 people saw this video. And it reached a water rights owner who now is challenging the legality of them. And so there's a pause on this program. So we pivoted with our grant funding and still did something amazing. So just a quick recap, Allie already covered the benefits of rain gardens, but it's really excellent passive irrigation that people don't have to think about watering because it's eventually going to get watered. And when you use really low maintenance, native, drought tolerant plants, it makes it super low maintenance landscaping. You really don't have to pay a lot for your water to water your garden because it's coming from the sky. And it's reducing flooding, preventing that erosion that you're seeing in Allie's photos. And then easing the burden on the stormwater management system, which there is a huge burden on the stormwater management system in Colorado Springs. It's replenishing the groundwater supply, naturally filtering the toxins, and of course, encouraging that biodiversity. So a little bit about my neighborhood of where we put in these rain gardens. So the neighborhood's called Stratton Meadows. It's in this little triangle, and it's just south of downtown in Colorado Springs. And I'm gonna shrink the video here. So yeah, we're at 5,900 feet, growing zone 6A. You guys can read all of this. You probably already have. One thing to mention, my neighborhood is 80% low income. And so not a lot of people have money to invest in their landscape. So it's a lot of blank slate landscapes of people who are just very thankful to have a landscape put in for them. So we've really worked on beautifying the neighborhood and helping neighbors out who can't afford it. So taking my house as inspiration for what I wanted to do with a really water-wise ecological landscape, this is my neighbor 2 doors down, and I had been drooling over their property for years because they have the corner lot, so there's actually more space and everyone sees it. This is a really important intersection. This main street, it's the main artery through the neighborhood, and then the side street here is where the kids walk from elementary school to the community center. So it's just a very visible area and a really great educational demonstration site. So I finally got to know them, told them what I wanted to do and that I wanted to landscape their yard, and they said, okay, go for it. So I came up with the design and wanted to put in as many edibles as possible. So we have a peach tree and an apple tree and service berries, and then lots of really drought tolerant plants like sand cherries. We have some Nanking cherries for more edibles, and lots of native perennial flowering perennials to make it beautiful. And then taking their downspouts. So they had 2 downspouts that were easily, this one rerouted underneath the sidewalk, and then this one comes here. So it comes into these dug out rain basins that I'll show you in a minute. So that's the overall grand big picture plan. Okay, so then we got started on installing the design, and we threw this big planting party with a bunch of neighbors and some friends. And first thing that needed to be done was the downspout needed to be rerouted underneath the sidewalk. And then we dug out these rain basins. So we dug these about 6 to 8 inches deep, and then carted the soil to the backyard where they were leveling some areas. So that now and then we brought in compost to help enrich the soil. But now it is this sunken area. It's hard to tell in the photo, but the water does concentrate around here, right where it's most needed, with the most thirsty plants being the fruit trees right here that need that extra downspout water as well. So we dug and we dug and we did this all in one day, and had the rain basin dug out here, and then there's 3 different basins over on this side. Only one of them getting downspout water, but the other 2 being depressions, so that water kind of concentrates there. And great group of people working to make this happen. We started planting the plants. And then something very special happened. So this was it was registered as part of our city's 1,000 Gatherings initiative. And it's really, the 1,000 Gathering initiative was to combat the epidemic of loneliness and to try to get neighbors out and talking to one another and meeting one another. And so most of these are my neighbors. And this is our Mayor Yemi from Colorado Springs. And then this is the governor of Colorado, Jared Polis. And they were touring around some of the neighborhood gatherings that weekend, and we got on the list. So they came out and visited and helped plant and boosted morale. It was really great. And then this is also David Lineweber, who is a council person. And then me and Allie, and then Mary Yemi's wife. And it was a really, really great time, and we were in the newspaper and we got great publicity. So it was great to spread the word on what we were doing. And this is what it looks like now. So we planted it in May, and now I took this photo a week ago. And it has been so incredible. So I walk by this every day on my morning walk, and I very often see hummingbirds buzzing around here. They love this hyssop, sunset hyssop. And the flowers in between here are chocolate flowers. So you can smell wafts of chocolate, and it is just amazing. And there's butterflies, there's bees. It's just been so cool to see. And it's been very low maintenance for them. They've done some spot watering to get things established, but now everything's pretty much established. So someone asked about the downspout, end of the downspout, and is it buried? And I wish I took a picture of this, but where it is it's about right in here where my mouse is. And so there's a big hole dug out where the pipe from the downspout goes into, and then it goes into an upside down flower pot with a hole cut out of it. So you have an upside down flower pot, and then the pipe is going into the flower pot, and that is in the hole. And then that is covered up with mulch. And so when the water flows out of the pipe, it doesn't get clogged because that upside down flower pot is keeping any mulch from getting in there. And then the water is able to rise up and then spread out in the rain basin. So that's how that works. And that's a great reminder that I should put that picture in here. So thank you for that question. And so just a quick reminder of what it used to look like and now what it looks like. So huge, huge transformation with so thankful for the grant funding and for all of our volunteers that made this happen, because it made it quite affordable. So part of this project also is the education and spreading the word about rain gardens. And so we have, we're making yard signs that will go in the yard. And so as people walk by, and we get a lot of pedestrian traffic on that street, people are going to be able to read about what's going on and what the project was for, and to learn more about it. And they're able to scan this. And there's a whole page on the Fountain Creek Watershed about this project and more information about it. And then we also have brochures to provide more education, get more people doing this. Yep, so you can learn tons more on the Fountain Creek Watershed website, and definitely encourage you to direct more people there so they can learn more. And we've been spreading the word on social media as well through the Fountain Creek Watershed District, through my social media as well. And so you're welcome to follow both of us and learn more as we post more. And doing lots of community events. So Fountain Creek does lots of tabling and spreading the word and education events. This is a very cool demonstration that they have. They're showing how deep native plant roots go. And we actually have some of these in the design, but you pull this little knob right here and you walk backwards, and then as far back as you walk, and as long as the string gets is as long as the roots get for these perennials. So this is a very effective demonstration. It's very cool. Yeah, so. And very exciting news is we just scheduled the next demonstration site. So our third demonstration site of rain gardens is going to go in October 6th. So this is another one of my neighbors, and we're going to be ripping up the grass and then putting down mulch and then creating a rain basin right here and a rain basin right here, and spreading the word, doing the good work. And that is it. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, I see some things in the chat. How to know what plants to put in for non-gardeners. There's some really great resources out there. One of the major resources that I use is Colorado Springs Utilities page, has these xeriscape plant resources, and there's a great search function that you can do low water. I only do low water, or there's like lowest water and low water maybe. And so you can pick really drought tolerant things, and then you can pick things by color, by perennials or trees or shrubs. So that's a great place to start. And then also I like to use mostly native plants, and the CSU website doesn't always filter out by natives. So the Audubon has a great, so Audubon, like Bird Audubon, has the great website for native plant finder. So if you Google Audubon native plants finder, you'll put in your zip code, and then it gives you all of the best species for your area. And then NWF also has a native plant finder, and those are really great, and they tell you how many caterpillars are hosted on each plant. And so there's some that have thousands of species of caterpillars. It's a really important host plant for them. So that's another one. You just put in your zip code and it'll give you all the top plants for you. So that's where I would start with those 3 resources. What practical water quality benefits are provided if only roof drainage enters the rain garden? What practical water quality benefits are provided if only the roof? I'm not clear on this question. Ellie, do you have a?
I think one of the concerns with, roof garden water is, or, roof water, and this pertains to rain barrels as well, is what those roofs are made of, and potentially bird waste. And so we do encourage people not to necessarily connect their downspouts to edible gardens, directly, like your vegetables and stuff. That's really the only, watch out that I've heard about that. I think the water quality benefits are you're once again preventing the stormwater runoff. Anything that gets into the water as it's running along the streets is going to go into our creeks. So I think there's some good prevention there. Does that address the question? We'll hope so.
Yeah, Angela, if that doesn't address it, if Phil, well, that might be you. Do you have to consider effects to the home's foundation when you promote infiltration? Does the rain garden have to be a certain distance from the house and near the road for the right-of-way gardens? Okay, yeah, great question. So it should be at least 10 feet from your house, where the downspouts are draining. That's generally a safe zone. Oops.
Oh, I just turned that off.
Okay, what else do we have?
How do you get rid of the grass? That's a good one.
Oh, how do we cardboard mulch? So there's a couple different ways. If you have a huge area, then it's best to really kind of scalp the grass. You just dig underneath it. And if you have another area in your yard, you can flip it over and just let it decompose there. Or what we did in this case is we dug up all the rain basins, took that and put it in the backyard to help level another area. But in all the areas around the rain basins that we didn't dig up, we cardboard mulch. So we had everybody bring all of their Amazon boxes that they've saved for the last however many months. And you lay them down and spray them down with water so that they'll mold to the ground nicely, and it kind of starts a decomposition process. And then you top that with mulch. And mulch is the best for water saving in your landscape. And so we put about 3 to 4 inches of mulch on top of that. And so that stifles all the grass, all the weeds, and keeps it from growing. So that's how we got rid of that grass.
And that was another budget wise thing is we have a city mulch pile where we got all free mulch. So that's another benefit if your community does any community mulching.
Yeah, and that mulch actually came from an arborist that I just started calling local arborists and saying, hey, can you dump your chips at my house? And finally one said, yep. And so that's where that one came. But we did have backup as the city mulch pile. This one just meant free delivery.
Describe amendments for soil or imported topsoil characteristics.
Which one is that one? Let's see, hold on. Let's go in. Roof runoff is, so I guess roof runoff is dirty due to atmospheric fallout and windborne dust. So worth it to treat before going into the garden. Is that are we treating the water before it goes into the garden? Is that what this comment is saying, Jim? So if you're talking about treating the water before it goes into the garden, generally these plants are really good remediators, and the soil is good at filtering things out. So and some of the dirt on a roof is great, like bird poop is nice free fertilizer. Yeah, I think it's also, I mean, you do have asphalt shingles. So I think it's your level of comfort with chemicals and your faith in the soil to filter things out. But yeah, none of this water is pre filtered or treated. Could you describe amendments for soil or imported topsoil characteristics? Okay, amendments for soil. So the compost that we had to amend the soil was a donation from one of our large landscape supply companies, Timberline, if anyone's in Colorado Springs. And so yeah, compost from the landscape yard is great. Ideally, the compost that you make is generally the best because it's probably going to be the most microbial rich. So I am a big soil nerd, and I am all about soil microbes, and the most living organisms you can possibly have in your soil is the best. So yeah, if you have a homemade compost pile, that's the best. If you don't, starting your homemade compost pile is also the best. So that's what I most recommend. Because we put so many native plants in, they generally are not as picky about having very fertile soil. And actually, sometimes they really like growing in less fertile soil. So in the areas where it was just flowers and natives, we didn't really amend it all that much. We kind of top dressed with a little bit of compost. but where we put the fruit trees where they're bigger babies and they really need a lot of extra support with the soil, we put a lot of compost in there. And then we didn't import any topsoil because I'm a big believer in just amending the soil that you already have there. Every soil can be fixed, and generally it's just adding organic material to it that helps it out and getting good microbes in there. So are curb cuts illegal? Yes, I believe the answer would be if you went out and cut a hole in your curb, you would be in trouble.
But that's only specific to the Fountain Creek watershed.
Thank you, Allie.
That's the caveat. So we, due to our downstream neighbors in the lower Ark Valley, we are exempted from any other watershed. So it may be legal in your community to have a curb cut, but we learned that that it is defined now as a stormwater um part of the city's stormwater BMPs that would require annual inspections and kind of all these other to-dos associated with that. So that's why they put the halt on it and said, we're really not ready for these. This is not legal. So we're kind of working on seeing if we could get some sort of an exemption to allow for the curb cuts, but we can still do rain gardens without them.
Mhm,
So the Arkansas watershed is unique.
mhm.
Jim, I thought the question was why treat roof runoff? I'm not sure if it's necessarily about treating the roof runoff. It's about capturing and utilizing it so it doesn't get wasted just going out into the street.
What if you diverted gutter runoff through a rain garden, but let it come out the other end? Have you ever seen that in Colorado? Gutter runoff. Do you mean like the right of way with the curb cuts? That kind, like curb runoff or gutter on your house? Gutter and the curb. Yeah, so actually the way these rain basins so at my house with the curb cut, the way they work, they're called eddy basin rain basins, where the water goes in the hole of the curb cut into the basin, and then as the basin fills up, then it plugs the hole, and then the water keeps going down. So like down the curb, continues on to the sewer system. So that's not, so I don't know about ones that run through the rain garden and come out the other end. I guess if you meant like if you connected my two basins together, then you would have more water holding capacity, but it would still work the same where it raises up, and then once it gets to that level of the hole in the curb, then it stops flowing in and keeps flowing down the curb. If that makes sense. And hopefully that answered your question. Any more questions?
Doesn't sound like it. Well, we're really thrilled to receive the grant award, and we'll keep you posted on the continuation of our rain garden story down here in Colorado Springs and in the Fountain Creek watershed. Happy to connect with you all. I'll be attending the CASFM conference later on here in a couple weeks and making a presentation. So if you want to hear more about our watershed, I'll be talking about that then. And yeah, just appreciate your time today.
Yeah. And if anybody has more
Hey,
questions
thank you.
about kind of the plant side of things or kind of the installation of the rain gardens, you're welcome to contact me. Easiest way to find me is kellybull, like my name, .com, and you can find me on my website there. Happy to help you.
Here, we have another question that came in. Are you going to add the downspout end cap to your page on the website?
Like the picture of it? You want to see a picture of it?
I think, yes. It's how to you know, you described the upside down flower pot, and I think it's, yeah, doing a sketch of that. How that
Yeah,
works.
I can do that. Or if you email me, I can send a picture to you. And you can email me through the website.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else here? No, we have thanks. Wonderful. Well, like Kelly said, if anyone else has more questions, you can contact her, Ally, and find that out. And thank you, Ally and Kelly, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us and showing us, you know, how we can have a rain garden and how that's helping in Colorado Springs, and hopefully that'll spread elsewhere. So thanks to everyone for attending. And if you're interested in selecting research and projects for CASFM grants like this one, or helping to plan and produce trainings, webinars like this one, please join us on the CASFM Outreach and Training Committee, because that's one of the things we do. So thanks, everyone. Y'all have a great afternoon.
Okay, thanks.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.